Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Caster Radio Show. I'm your host, Omar Lee. We're glad and excited to have another exciting guest today, Andy Southard, on today's show. He is a professional bodybuilder. He's got some wonderful things to share with you all today. Andy, thanks again for being today's featured guest. We're excited to have you on. Before we get started, I want to also highlight some of our sponsors: Tenacious Fitness Unlimited, Spiffy Cleaning Service, and Omar Lee Publishing. Yes, sir. I had an awesome chance to work out with Andy. Very personable. We had a really good time working out early in the summer, and I was just sharing with family and friends. I think this for me has been one of the most exciting summers I've had in quite a while. Just reaching out with family, traveling, and doing a lot of stuff, linking up with people. So I would definitely say you were probably one of the highlights as well. So I really appreciate you being able to, we were able to collaborate and work out. So my first question for you is, how has training changed since COVID for you?
When back, March in 2020, when it first started, pretty much, and I'm from Indiana, everything shut down.
Okay.
And, so my commercial gym I went to was closed, and I had a friend of mine from high school who I knew had equipment in his garage.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave him a call and was like, hey, you want to work out, partner? And so for about 8 to 10 weeks, I would drive down to his place in the mornings, and we trained there. And he had the basics. We were squat, bench, deadlift, had some dumbbells, and just got it done during that time period. Afterwards, once the gyms opened back up, I was there day one to continue my routine there.
Okay, awesome. The next question I have for you is, how did you get started competing in bodybuilding?
So it's kind of a funny story. I was late, so I was probably 30 years old before my first competition.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and so, I've been training for now 30 years, since I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And I was at the gym with my buddy, and I was the biggest of all my friends. And
okay.
It was just, big fish in the pond, right? and we were just working out. He's like, hey, man, you're really ripped, which, I probably looked good at a pool, but not on a stage, but I didn't know that. And he's like, hey, you should do a bodybuilding competition. And I said, at the time, he was practicing jiu-jitsu. He goes, I'll do my first MMA fight within a year if you do a bodybuilding competition. So it's kind of a bet. And so the first thing I did was I looked online and said, hey, what are there local bodybuilding competitions? I had no idea what I was getting into. No clue. And there was one about 8 weeks away, which I didn't know time frame, if that was, a long time or a short time to prep for something like that.
Okay.
And getting hooked up with a guy who trained people, and we kind of went from there.
Okay, awesome. So you are in jiu-jitsu?
No, I'm not. He was.
Okay.
He said he could do his first match within a year if I enter a bodybuilding competition. So it's kind of a challenge, if you will.
Okay. What would you say was one of the biggest hurdles in your amateur years?
Probably my amateur years. Probably diet was and so it's interesting. I've been training for 15 years before I ever did a bodybuilding competition. I've always been the strongest person I've known, kind of thing. But I had no clue what diet looked like. And in fact, for about 7 years, I was a vegetarian vegan during that time period.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And not a good vegetarian vegan. I called this, a boxed food vegetarian vegan.
Okay.
I wasn't eating fruits, vegetables. I was eating, things that were, pre processed foods. That's, so I wasn't a good vegetarian, and certainly was not getting enough protein to support muscle tissue.
Right.
And so once when I did, by the time I was 30, I had been back onto seafood at that point for about 2 to 3 years, so I was able to at least use that during the first prep.
Okay.
And but then really realized how under eating I was in certain macronutrients, specifically protein, and then from there, kind of over the last 14 years, I guess, started to really figure out how to appropriate that.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds really good. What do you consider one of the most memorable and motivational training experiences that you've personally had?
So it's the most memorable, and it's not, this guy's not a fantastic bodybuilder, but I have been compared to a guy down in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and his name was Jason Genova. And so it's like he's got a little sub-cult of people that follow him.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's a nice guy, has some, I would say he's a little slow. I think it's the best way to put it, I'm a little bit mentally slow, but he's one of those guys that I look a little bit like him. And so, it was kind of funny when my friends brought it up, said, hey, you follow this guy, you kind of look like him. And he's always talking about bodybuilding and things and posting these crazy videos. And so he had quite a following on Instagram and things like that. And so I actually was going to be down in near Delray Beach where he lived, and I was going to be down for vacation. I just reached out to him and said, hey, dude, I'm a professional bodybuilder. Let's get together and work out, do a video. And he reached out back to me, and it was just an experience because he films everything, and we he put the film up online on his YouTube channel, and so it was just a comical experience to be around him for that.
Okay. I've always asked this question, but I never really commented on it. I would say, for me, and I've trained with a lot of really good people, so if someone's listening to this and they're saying, well, why didn't they say me? It's not that. I would say, when I think of people who are name recognition-wise, I would have to say Tony Freeman. He's been very supportive of me. So one time I reached out to him and I said, hey, Tony, he was in the Atlanta area, lived in this area. And I said, hey, let's work out. And so this particular time, he said, okay, yeah, we work out. So I remember going to the gym, and I'd seen Tony before, but this was like post after he competed, but he still was in really good shape. And I remember seeing this guy in the gym, and this dude was huge, big, just looked like a lumberjack, but really cool. And that was him. I was like, dang, And so we worked out, and I was able to hang with him all the way up until he wanted to do calves, of all things. And so after that, it felt like somebody had literally busted my calf wide open. I was fine, but it was just that kind of intensity. But, Tony Freeman's been very supportive, real good dude for me and to me. And he even collaborated on one of the magazines that I was working on and things like that. So for me, I would just say it was probably Tony. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. But yeah, all those things are very important, and it keeps you encouraged. Even our workout. I took some notes. I said, okay, so next time we work out, I'll try to make sure I'm at a better level than I was. But it's always good to collaborate with folks who are motivational, inspirational, and impactful. So the next question I have for you is, what's your favorite training approach?
The training approach that I've used the most frequently, and for a long time, is I always start out with my big compound lifts. When I have the most energy, I'm not tired. I've seen the pre-exhaust and people who go in and do, leg extensions and then hit squats or something like that. But I always start with my big lifts first. So squat, deadlift, bench, overhead press, whatever the day is. And then work into my accessory lifts. So that's that's been a pretty consistent approach for me for the last, I guess, almost since I started. So,
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Does your training change during pre-contest? And if so, how?
No. Okay. No. It's a pretty similar approach. I try to lift as heavy as possible, especially as you get leaner and leaner. You're going to lose some muscle mass. You're going to lose some strength. But it's incredibly important to keep the resistance high because you have to give your body a reason to keep the muscle.
Okay.
Muscle is one of those things that's it's a preferred energy source when your body fat levels are low. Your body would rather it's easier for it to break down the muscle than it is the fat at that point if you're low fat. So you got to give it a reason to hold on to the muscle, otherwise it will cannibalize your muscle for energy.
Right. Absolutely. The next question I have for you is, and I think, let's see, did I ask it? What's a typical day of training and food prep look like for you? What's a typical day of food prep and training for you?
So, not too much changes, and I'm right now off season to in season as far as diet, prep and so forth. As far as my food prep goes, I usually prep about twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'll cook up 3 to 4 days worth of meals. I plate it up, and it's there. I like not thinking about it.
Yeah.
Staying on track that way. Now, when I'm off season, then I'm going to have more treats. I'm going to snack more. If I want something, I do it. If I want to go out to eat, I do it.
Okay.
So there's not that restriction. But I eat a lot of the similar foods and similar quantities, whether I'm prepping or not prepping. But it really comes down to, like you say, preparation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
I get everything in order. Two times a week. Typically, I'll have 2 cook sessions a week where I cook my food for the next 3 to 4 days, and then I'm good to go.
Okay, awesome. What advice would you give a novice competitor?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out, like a novice competitor?
So a competitor, it would be that so I guess the important, there's so many things that are important with bodybuilding, and they're all not equally important, but very important. So, understand macros, understand how to get the appropriate amount of protein per day, and how to space out your meals so you can get that protein amount in. I would say training. Hopefully you have a good training regimen that you're going to hit, and I always recommend, compound lifts are good, and primary to be successful. And sleep and stress management. Those are the 2 things that I think people don't give enough to, that has a huge impact on how your body carries weight, how it stores fat, how it affects everything. And so understand, the importance of 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Understand the ability to handle the stressors in your life and not let it affect other factors. So those are areas that I've gotten better at through the years too.
Okay, fantastic. What would you tell someone who's just about to give up on exercise? And I like this question because sometimes we have individuals tuning in who they may not aspire to compete, but they're looking for someone to motivate them just to get up, get moving, and keep going. So what would you tell that person who's just about to give up on exercise?
Yeah, so I think that, it's science that, the more moving's important, right? Activity is important for longevity and also just the quality of life later years. We're talking 60s, 70s, 80s. The people who continue to exercise throughout those decades are going to have a better quality of life towards the end of life. And this is just general fitness, right? This isn't talking about competing. This is about just living a good life. So when you're 70, you're still able to go do things, and you're not sitting in or worse off, in a wheelchair. I saw somebody in a hover round the other day, and I'm like, what a terrible life that would be long term, right? That would be tough. It'd be tough. So, I think the important part of that exercise is you have to enjoy it. And I think people try sometimes to do exercises that they think are going to work, and they may work, but if they hate doing it, right? If you go to a spin class because you think a spin class is going to make you healthy, but you hate the spin class, how long are you going to stick with that, right? And not long. So you have to find exercise that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be weightlifting necessarily. It doesn't have to be running necessarily. But some activity you really enjoy, or you can make it enjoyable, like having a workout partner or something like that, to where you're going to get it done. Because that, once again, it comes down to what you do now is going to affect what it looks like 30, 40 years from now.
Right.
And your quality of life and longevity, right? So people who don't work out, they may have a lot of health problems in their 60s, whereas the people who do, living 80 and beyond and doing it to where they have a high quality of life.
Right. And it what's not really talked about a lot, when you exercise, it does, in some cases, depending on what you're doing and what types of things you're consuming, it can visibly reverse the clock. So a person may not look their exact age. I know I've seen people who, they'll really get excited about asking them, how old are you? They want people to ask them how old they are. And so many times when you ask, you may think, oh, okay, you must be, late 40s, something like that. And they're like, no, I'm actually 60s, late 60s, 70s, something like that. So again, exercise can reverse the clock somewhat and improve longevity of life. And I do agree with you. I think including low impact exercise, something that's not really going to impact your joints a lot, but any type of movement like low impact walking is really good. Having a walking routine, getting outside, just maybe even getting some sun frequently, not direct sun, but just outside, maybe in a shelter. All those things have an impact on your general health. It is, I think they are starting to talk more about that, but it does have a major impact.
Walking is probably the most underrated cardiovascular health thing you can do, for sure.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're way overweight. You know, if you're 400 pounds plus and you're trying to get something started, you know, find a way to walk 20 minutes a day to start. And I think that does wonders for people.
Yeah, walking, aqua fitness in the pool, you know, doing exercise in the pool. Those are lower impact types of things for people who may struggle with having joint issues or obesity and things like that. What would you consider to be one of your favorite audio, video, or CDs that you listen to, you know, to gain motivation or encouragement?
You know, I would say that that's probably one area that I don't do a lot of, as far as watching videos or, but I would say that probably one of the, you know, I thought about who's the one influential person that I follow. Okay. And I enjoy this guy because, one, he's super smart. His name's Dr. Lane Norton. Okay. For bodybuilding for a long time. And he's incredibly intelligent, and he does a lot of, you know, not just supplement type reviews, but just anybody who comes out with a, whether it's a workout routine, whether it's a diet, or somebody who's trying to use scientific knowledge to promote a product or something like that, or their own belief system. He really digs into it and can find the truth behind something. And he debunks a lot of false fitness gurus out there, which is good because there's so much out there what's correct. And I think that he's worth a follow. Okay, awesome. Well, that brings us almost to the end. Do you have any upcoming tests or events or things that you'd like to share with the audience? Yeah, so I'm kind of, you know, I got asked this a while, not too long ago. I'm kind of at a crossroads right now. I was a natural pro in the IPE and WMEF. Okay. And when you say a natural pro, both those organizations, they do, you know, they do urine testing, polygraph testing, where you can't have taken a lot of, you know, obviously steroids, anabolic substances, things like that, 7-year period. Otherwise, you're disqualified from being part of the organization or competing. Okay. And recently, I'm 44 right now. I am on testosterone replacement therapy now. Ever since the 40s, you know, I was, you know, really down, you know, just energy levels were low, wasn't waking up good, was getting really exhausted in the afternoons. And so saw my doctor and, you know, took a blood test and started testing my levels. And the only thing that was off was my testosterone was, you know, below the reference ranges. And so I went on that a couple of months ago, and it's been fantastic. I mean, it's, you know, now my levels are normal, but it feels great because you don't realize it when you're at the time how low you are. But so now I feel great. Unfortunately, now I'm not able to compete in those federations. Right. And so next step would be into the NPC and the IFBB, which is, you know, an untested, you know, where people are taking much, much higher doses in a lot of cases than I would ever think of taking, because I'm just doing it to be in a healthy range where, you know, if you're going through an IFBB Pro card, a lot of times they're using higher amounts to get a maximum amount of muscle on their body. So I don't know. I don't know there's much pushing me to compete in the near future, but I always leave it open. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of times we have to, when we're making decisions, we have to go what's, you know, generally best for us. And I guess the beauty of it is there's a contest for just about everyone. For those who seek to just to go off of genetics and
being natural, or if a person seeks to see how they can fare with other people who are enhanced, whatever that might mean. So yeah, I think right now there are a lot of different options for just about anyone who's interested in competing or going about that route. Well, Andy, thank you again for being today's featured guest. He was, like I shared with him earlier, prior to doing today's show, this was a quick turnaround. I really appreciate you coming on. I know our guests will also value what you have to say. Thank you again.
All right, thanks.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.